Unlock the doors to the extraordinary with Paranormal M. If you're fascinated by the unexplained and yearn for first-hand encounters with the supernatural, subscribing to our channel is a must. Don't forget to enable notifications. Story number 1. I have a captivating story to share with you, one that takes place in the vast lands of Russia. It revolves around an intriguing character, the father of my beloved girlfriend. This man, unlike the typical law enforcement officers you may encounter in America, was a voluntary cop, akin to an American deputy, but with a bit less authority. His responsibilities primarily involved handling minor infractions, such as individuals strolling across public lawns, or intoxicated individuals serenading the streets with their off-key melodies. Allow me to transport you to a serene evening in this tale. Word reached the ears of our valiant volunteer that a clandestine gathering was taking place in the city park, defying the rules and regulations set forth by the authorities. He made his way to the location, only to discover a joyous wedding celebration hosted by two rather large families. Demonstrating his benevolent nature, he offered them his heartfelt wishes for a prosperous union and promptly departed. However, he decided to embark on a shortcut through the ancient cemetery on his way back home. This cemetery, an artifact of World War II, had remained unchanged since those dark days of conflict. Its caretaker, a weathered old man, devoutly guarded the solemn ground, receiving a meager salary in return. A tranquil atmosphere enveloped the aged tombstones, and as nightfall descended upon the land, our hero quickened his pace along the main road. Suddenly, amidst the eerie shadows, he caught sight of a diligent gravekeeper. The old man was meticulously repairing a fence that had been damaged by a fallen branch, while nearby rested his cart, laden with various gardening tools. As mischievous thoughts danced through our hero's mind, he concocted a whimsical prank to play on the unsuspecting gravekeeper. Stealthily, he crept toward the cart, seized one of the discarded litter bags, and deftly wielded his pocket knife to create 2 precise eye holes in the bag. With a mischievous grin, he draped the bag over his head and torso, effectively disguising himself. To enhance the illusion, he produced a lighter, its flame casting an eerie glow from within the bag's makeshift eyes, and commenced his wailing. The gravekeeper, engrossed in his diligent repair work, eventually pivoted to face the source of the unearthly lament. Slowly his gaze met the peculiar figure before him, and for an entire minute he studied the enigmatic spectacle. Curiously, he averted his eyes, seemingly undisturbed by the supernatural presence. With a resolute spirit, he resumed his duties, leaving our hero befuddled by the utter lack of response. The gravity of his prank began to weigh heavily upon him, and he was consumed by remorse for his juvenile antics. Without hesitation, he removed the bag, quietly mumbled an apologetic, "Sorry, man," and hastened his pace towards the exit of the cemetery. But fate had an unexpected twist in store for our bewildered protagonist. Just as he reached the very gates of the cemetery, his ears caught the distinct sound of hurried footsteps echoing behind him. Turning around, he beheld the gravekeeper, sprinting towards him unwavering with determination. In a swift motion, the old man brandished his spade and delivered a sharp, albeit painful, poke to our hero's side. With a voice fueled by both frustration and concern, he sternly admonished, "How many times must I emphasize? Dear people, feel free to wander within these hallowed grounds, but I implore you, do not venture beyond its sacred borders." And thus concludes this captivating tale from the heartland of Russia, where the unpredictability of pranks intertwines with the unwavering guardianship of a vigilant gravekeeper. It serves as a reminder that even in the realm of mischievous exploits, there are consequences to be faced and valuable lessons to be learned. Story number 2. When I was 12 years old, my dad shared a chilling story with me. One that stuck with him so vividly that he can recall every detail as if it happened just last week. You see, my dad served in the police force for a remarkable 20 years, and during his early days as a rookie, he found himself tasked with conducting nighttime roadblocks to catch drunk drivers. By that point, they had already conducted numerous roadblocks, and this particular night began just like any other routine operation. Little did they know that their lives were about to take an eerie and unexpected turn. It all started when a Toyota Corolla approached their position with something peculiar on its roof. A white blanket flapping in the wind caught their attention, but they initially dismissed it as a harmless oddity. One of the officers even cracked a joke, suggesting that the driver was multitasking by drawing laundry and driving home simultaneously. However, the laughter swiftly subsided as the car drew closer, revealing a shocking sight that sent chills down their spines. Resting on top of the vehicle was what appeared to be a woman dressed in white, lying face down. Baffled and unsettled, the officers watched in disbelief as the mysterious figure seemed to slide backwards like a slug, disappearing behind the car before it eventually came to a halt in front of them. The gravity of the situation took a few minutes to register within my dad's team, and they exchanged bewildered glances, silently confirming that they all had witnessed the inexplicable spectacle. Finally, the most senior member of their group summoned the courage to approach the driver and commence the usual line of questioning. However, his voice betrayed a noticeable quiver, evidence of the unease that had settled upon them. With trembling words, the senior officer instructed the driver to step out of the vehicle. As the team conducted a thorough inspection of the Toyota Corolla, they meticulously scrutinized every nook and cranny, including the trunk, searching for any signs of foul play or unusual occurrences. Surprisingly, their search yielded nothing out of the ordinary, leaving them perplexed and even more intrigued by the enigma before them. The driver, a handsome staff sergeant from the Army, explained that he was returning home from a company event that evening. He admitted to having consumed a few cans of beer, but claimed that he had decided to sleep it off in his bunk before embarking on the journey back home in the early hours of the morning. Around 4 a.m., his sobriety tests came back clean, further deepening the mystery surrounding this bizarre situation. As they continued to question the driver, their curiosity grew, prompting them to inquire if he had witnessed anything peculiar during his drive. Initially, he denied noticing anything out of the ordinary. However, under further interrogation, he hesitantly disclosed that he had been forced to swerve his vehicle to avoid what appeared to be a bird flying upside down, an eerie sight indeed. Although he found it unsettling, he had dismissed it as a trivial detail unworthy of sharing with the police. The senior officer, now grappling with a perplexing conundrum, made a decision. He advised the driver to spend some time at a 24-hour coffee shop before continuing his journey home. It was a local belief that making a pit stop could confuse malevolent spirits, preventing them from setting up shop in one's house. Initially confused by the suggestion, the driver eventually comprehended its purpose and nodded in agreement, grateful for any measure that might safeguard him from the supernatural. Once the driver had departed, my dad and his team promptly reported the incident to the station, opting to cut the night short. To this day, they remain in the dark about the ultimate fate of the driver. Nevertheless, my dad, like me, hopes that he emerged from the uncanny encounter unscathed, free from any lingering supernatural repercussions. And so, that is the tale my dad shared with me, a story that has remained etched in his memory, defying the passage of time. As I reflect on his vivid recollection, I can't help but feel a shiver crawl down my spine, appreciating the enduring power of a truly chilling encounter. Story number 3. When I reflect upon my youth, particularly the period between the ages of 19 and 20 when I resided in Maryland, a wave of nostalgia washes over me. It was during this time that I nurtured an intense passion for capturing the essence of abandoned houses in some of the dilapidated suburban areas surrounding my childhood home. Despite the frequent encounters with law enforcement officials resulting from my trespassing escapades, which invariably led to nothing more than rides home in handcuffs and a gentle admonition, my insatiable desire to document these forgotten dwellings remained unabated. One fateful day, I stumbled upon a local legend about an abandoned house where a police officer had tragically lost his life. The intriguing allure of this macabre tale enticed me to explore the premises. According to the rumors, the house had been deserted for years, devoid of any human presence. Curiosity gnawed at my core as I pondered the mysteries concealed within its dilapidated walls. Undeterred by the warnings or potential consequences, I resolved to visit this forsaken abode and capture its essence through my lens. Upon entering the house, I was immediately struck by the peculiar ambiance that permeated the air. The floor, coated in a thick layer of dust and debris, stood as a testament to neglect and abandonment. It appeared as though the previous occupants had abruptly vacated the premises, leaving behind their entire lives, only for vandals to descend upon the remnants, savagely desecrating the remnants that was once his home. Despite the eerie atmosphere, I didn't sense any overwhelming malevolence or otherworldly presences. The sunlit day provided a semblance of comfort and reassurance, shielding me from any supernatural apprehensions. Eager to capture the essence of this desolate dwelling, I began my photographic exploration on the ground floor. The broken furniture strewn about in disarray added a sense of melancholic beauty to this derelict surrounding. Each snapshot immortalized the remnants of a forgotten era, frozen in time through the lens of my camera. Satisfied with my endeavors on the lower level, I ascended the wooden staircase, its apparent sturdiness providing me with a glimmer of hope for an uninterrupted exploration of the upper floor. Just as I reached the top of the staircase, my senses were abruptly interrupted by the distant sound of a police car's siren, growing increasingly audible as it approached the vicinity. Panic surged within me, realizing that my unauthorized presence in this forsaken abode had attracted the attention of law enforcement. I swiftly called out to announce my whereabouts, hoping to prevent any unfortunate misunderstandings that could ensue. To my surprise, 2 police officers swiftly entered the house, their authoritative presence instilling a mixture of apprehension and relief within me. In compliance with their instructions, I obediently remained stationed on the upper floor, awaiting their ascent. One of the officers, a youthful and seemingly inexperienced rookie, began cautiously climbing the stairs toward my location. It was at this juncture that the inexplicable commenced. With each step the officer attempted, a strange phenomenon unfolded before my eyes. As he distributed his weight upon the wooden staircase, the steps beneath him began to crumble and collapse. It was as if the very structure of the stairs conspired against him, sabotaging his progress with each move. Some steps merely cracked under the strain, encouraging him to persist despite the treacherous path ahead. However, on 2 occasions, the unfortunate officer's foot plunged through the steps, causing him to lose his footing entirely. The surreal nature of this occurrence left me dumbfounded, struggling to comprehend the inexplicable events unfolding before me. In stark contrast to the rookie officer's plight, my descent from the upper floor proceeded without incident. Each step, as if recognizing my presence, bore my weight with steadfast reliability. It was as though an unseen force shielded me from the chaos that had befallen my unwitting companion. Exhibiting a mixture of relief and disbelief, I nimbly maneuvered past the broken steps and rejoined the officers on the ground floor. Following this perplexing episode, the 2 officers fulfilled their duty by escorting me back to my residence. The encounter concluded without any lasting consequences, and life returned to its familiar rhythm. Nonetheless, the memory of that bizarre experience remains etched in the depths of my consciousness. I can't help but speculate whether some dormant force within the abandoned house harbored an inexplicable animosity towards law enforcement, orchestrating a strange sequence of events as a testament to its malevolent disposition. To this day, as I reflect upon my youthful indiscretions and my unwavering fascination with capturing the haunting beauty of abandoned houses, the memory of that enigmatic encounter lingers as a testament to the inexplicable mysteries that lie hidden within the forgotten corners of our world. It serves as a poignant reminder of the enduring allure that can be found in the most desolate and unconventional places, igniting a ceaseless curiosity within the depths of my soul. Story number 4. A few years ago, my wife and I embarked on an unforgettable honeymoon adventure in the captivating country of Scotland. We were filled with excitement as we planned our itinerary, deciding to stay in various Airbnbs and cozy bed and breakfasts throughout our 14-day journey. It was an opportunity to immerse ourselves in rich culture, breathtaking landscapes, and warm hospitality of this remarkable nation. As we neared the end of our honeymoon, our penultimate destination was the vibrant city of Edinburgh. Eager to experience the city's charm, we had booked a first-floor flat online. The owner informed us that they resided upstairs and provided us with detailed instructions to access the accommodation. Upon arriving at the flat, we found ourselves running behind schedule for a dinner reservation. Maneuvering the rental car, a standard vehicle, but with the steering wheel on the right side, we hastily unloaded our bags and hurried inside. In the midst of our rush, I summoned an Uber, while my wife attended to organizing our belongings and preparing for the evening. As minutes ticked by, growing concerned about the delay, I dashed back into the building to investigate the cause. To my alarm, I discovered my wife anxiously screaming and pounding on the door. Racing downstairs, I swiftly unlocked the flat's entrance, finding my wife in a state of distress on the floor. It appeared that she had been unable to open the door from the inside. Intrigued yet unsettled by this peculiar incident, I tested the door myself, and to our bewilderment, it opened effortlessly. Nonetheless, we pushed aside our unease and left for our dinner reservation, hoping the strange occurrence would be forgotten. Returning from our delightful dinner, we retired for the night in the cozy flat that we had secured for a 3-night stay. During my slumber, an unsettling dream gripped me. I found myself immersed in a vivid vision of an elderly woman seated in the garden. Her piercing gaze met mine, and she hauntingly uttered, "I'm here with you." The intensity of the experience rattled me to the core, but thinking it was merely a product of an unusual first night's sleep, I chose not to share the details with my wife. The following day, we anticipated meeting the owners who resided upstairs, eager to interact with the locals and gain insights into the city's hidden gems. However, our plans took an unexpected turn when the owners flaked on us, leaving us somewhat disappointed. Undeterred, we embarked on a day of exploration, visiting Edinburgh Castle and strolling through the bustling main streets. Along the way, we indulged in the local tradition of purchasing an abundance of scarves, intended as gifts for loved ones who might never really wear them. The hours slipped by, and as the sun began to set, we finally returned to our flat. As we stepped inside, a peculiar incident unfolded. A decorative dress adorning one of the walls suddenly tumbled down. I quickly restored it to its rightful place, assuming it was merely an accidental occurrence. However, barely a minute later, the dress inexplicably fell once more. This strange event left us feeling somewhat shaken, but we attributed it to a mere coincidence. Eager to put the odd incidents behind us, we took showers and settled into bed as darkness enveloped the city. Our bedroom boasted a window overlooking the enchanting garden. In the dead of night, around 1 a.m., I awoke abruptly to the sound of my wife speaking in an unfamiliar language, Latin or Greek perhaps, uttering words I couldn't comprehend. Alarmed, I sat upright and listened intently for a moment before waking her up, my own anxiety mounting. She seemed unable to recall her dream, but she took my account of her nocturnal linguistic episode with equal alarm. I vividly remember her mentioning the name Saint Augustine. The inexplicable nature of the incident filled us both with a growing sense of unease. Around 2 a.m., our fear and unease reached their zenith, and we made an impulsive decision to secure a hotel for that night, a different one. Determined to depart at the earliest opportunity, we would have left immediately if not for the remnants of wine consumed the previous evening. Scottish regulations regarding driving under the influence compelled us to postpone our departure until dawn. With every light on in the flat switched, and Netflix shows playing on an iPad to ward off sleep, we busied ourselves with packing and loading our belongings into the car. We had done laundry the previous day, and due to the rain, we had placed the damp garments on the furniture to dry overnight, as there is no dryer in the flat. As we readied ourselves to leave, we discovered the moist laundry had left unsightly marks on the wooden table and chairs, tarnishing their finish. Armed with a hairdryer, we attempted to rectify the situation by removing the white marks. Consulting online tutorials that shed light on the matter especially. But despite our efforts, the furniture remained stubbornly blemished. The unnerving feeling of the flat seemed to be conspiring to keep us captive. We tried contacting the owner for assistance, but our calls went unanswered, intensifying our growing trepidation. Finally, we managed to load all of our belongings into the car before embarking on our journey. I accessed my email to retrieve the address of the hotel that we had booked the previous night. However, my heart sank as I made a distressing discovery. There was no record of our reservation at the hotel. In a disheartened daze, I hung up the phone after a futile conversation with the hotel staff, only to receive an email from the booking website moments later. The email informed us that the vendor had canceled our reservation without explanation. The realization hit us like a thunderclap. We were left with an additional night in the peculiar flat that we had grown increasingly wary of. In that moment, our minds were made up. With a shared glance, my wife and I knew we needed to distance ourselves from this unsettling place as swiftly as possible. The inexplicable incidents, the eerie dreams, and the canceled reservation had converged to create an atmosphere thick with otherworldly presence. We drove away, determined to escape the clutches of whatever enigmatic forces seemed to be at play within those walls. Yearning for solace and safety of a new abode, far away from the enigmatic terrors of that Edinburgh flat. Story number 5. Let me tell you about a series of bizarre events that unfolded within the confines of our house. It was a place where inexplicable phenomena became an unwelcome guest, defying the laws of nature and challenging our perception of reality. Strangely enough, I always brushed aside these occurrences, dismissing them as mere coincidences or figments of my imagination. Little did I know that one fateful night would change everything, shattering my skepticism and plunging me into a realm of fear and uncertainty. As the tale goes, I found myself in the solitude of my bedroom when I witnessed something truly unnerving. A decorative hanging on my wardrobe door handle suddenly commenced an eerie dance, swinging back and forth with inexplicable vigor. The sight sent shivers down my spine, leaving me paralyzed with fear. Determined to find solace, I sought the comfort and presence of our family dog, a loyal companion known for his unwavering bravery. I beckoned him to sleep beside me, hoping his presence would alleviate my growing unease. With the lights dimmed, I lay there in bed, my mind racing with questions and trepidation. Sleep eluded me, my senses heightened by the unexplained phenomenon I had just witnessed. Suddenly, the dog sprang to his feet, his body tense and his growls filling the room. He began to circle the space, his eyes fixed on an unseen presence that instilled a primal fear within him. I was taken aback by his reaction, observing his behavior with a mixture of curiosity and dread. Overwhelmed by the mounting terror, I made a hasty decision to abandon my room and seek refuge on the living room couch. With the loyal dog as my steadfast companion, I settled in, hoping that a change of surroundings would bring a sense of respite. Yet, as fate would have it, tranquility proved elusive once again. Approximately 10 to 15 minutes into my new sleeping arrangement, the dog leapt to his feet once more, his barks piercing the silence of the night. Through the faint illumination cast by the street lamps outside, I watched as his entire body bristled with agitation. It was a sight I had never witnessed before, an animal so consumed by anger and fear that its very essence seemed transformed. Following his gaze, I turned my head to face the direction of his relentless barking. There, in the distance, I saw an otherworldly apparition, an ethereal, towering figure enveloped in a swirling mist of white. With a slow and deliberate glide, the mysterious entity made its way through the kitchen, its presence palpable and foreboding. As the seconds ticked by, it gradually dissipated, fading into nothingness before my eyes. In that moment, I felt a chilling realization wash over me. I had encountered a supernatural force, a specter from realms beyond our comprehension. From that night onward, my skepticism shattered like fragile glass, replaced by an unsettling acceptance of the inexplicable. The house, once a sanctuary of warmth and familiarity, now became a domain of unexplained phenomena, an unrelenting fear. Each creaking floorboard, every flicker of light, served as a haunting reminder that we were not alone in this space. To this day, the memory of that tall, white, smoky apparition lingers in my mind, an indelible mark of the paranormal etched upon my consciousness. It serves as a constant reminder that there are forces at play in this world that surpass our limited understanding. A reminder to approach the mysteries of life with humility and an open mind. Story number 6. No more monsters after cleanse. Let me tell you this incredible story that unfolded in my life recently, and I must say it left me both relieved and nervous, causing a mix of emotions that made me chuckle. You see, ever since my family and I moved into this house, my adorable 4-year-old son has been incessantly complaining about monsters lurking in every corner, but particularly in his room, the hallway, and the dreaded basement. Now, I must admit, I too experienced an overwhelming sense of unease whenever I ventured down into that basement, but I made sure never to let my son catch wind of my trepidation. It was just a day or perhaps a month, or even 2 months ago, when my little one was spending some quality time at his father's house, an important detail, mind you, that I decided to take matters into my own hands. I embarked on a mission of utmost assertiveness, armed with bundles of sage and sticks of Palo Santo, ready to cleanse the energy in our humble abode. I went from room to room, diligently opening windows and doors, and with unwavering determination I firmly stated, "Vacate this premises." It was as though an invisible weight in the air was suddenly lifted, and a profound sense of lightness permeated the atmosphere. At the time, I believed this newfound sensation to be a mere psychological trick of my mind, a product of wishful thinking, if you will. However, an astonishing revelation struck me recently. It dawned on me that my son hadn't uttered a single word about those frightful monsters since that fateful day of my cleansing ritual. What truly baffled me was the fact that my innocent child had no knowledge whatsoever of my endeavor. I had deliberately refrained from sharing any details about the paranormal with him, striving to shield his innocent mind from such matters. The implications of this realization were staggering. Could it be that the ritualistic cleansing I had performed had indeed banished the malevolent entities that haunted my son's imagination? Or was it simply a coincidence, an uncanny alignment of events that led to his newfound silence on the matter? The uncertainty that shrouded these questions left me both relieved, knowing that my son seemed free from his fears, and yet nervous as I grappled with the enigmatic forces that might be at play within the walls of our home. Regardless of the cause, I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride and relief within me. The mere thought of my son finding solace in the absence of those monsters brought a sense of tranquility to my heart. I resolved to keep this mystical occurrence a secret, to preserve the innocence of his young mind, and continue fostering an environment of love, warmth, and protection. As I reflect on this extraordinary chapter in my life, I'm reminded of the power of belief, the enigmatic nature of the unseen world, and the lengths a parent would go to shield their child from terrors that lurk in the shadows. It's a story that I'll cherish and ponder for years to come, a testament to the strength of a mother's love and the indomitable spirit that dwells within us all. Story number 7. 2-year-old sees eyes in his room. As a parent, my son's bedroom has always been a place primarily designated for playtime and storing his clothes. Since he's only 2 years old, he usually sleeps with my partner and me. However, 2 nights ago, I made a slight deviation from our usual routine. I left his bedroom door open, allowing him the freedom to wander in and out of his room. The layout of our house is such that you can easily see down the hallway leading to his room from the living room, so I didn't consider it a major safety concern. Little did I know that this seemingly innocuous decision would lead to a series of unsettling events. At first, everything seemed normal. My son was quietly playing in his room, presumably enjoying the newfound independence that I had granted him. Suddenly, without warning, he burst out of his room, a clear expression of distress etched across his face. He was yelling frantically, "Scary, scary, scary eyes," while pointing back towards his room. Naturally, I rushed to his side, concern flooding my thoughts. I anxiously inquired about what had frightened him, but all he could manage to utter was "eyes," repeatedly. Taking his tiny hand in mine, I asked him to guide me to where he had seen these alarming eyes. Together, we ventured back into his room, his tiny fingers pointing to an empty wall. Confusion enveloped me as I failed to comprehend what could have possibly terrified him in the seemingly ordinary space. There was nothing on that wall apart from a window covered by a curtain. His finger aimed to the right of the window, indicating the source of his distress. In an attempt to reassure him and assuage his fears, I assured him that he was safe and that there was nothing to worry about. Privately, I dismissed the incident as a product of his active imagination, believing it to be nothing more than a passing childhood fear. Time passed, and the incident faded from my immediate memory. However, the events of that peculiar night were destined to resurface. Approximately an hour later, my son once again pointed down the hallway, his voice filled with terror as he exclaimed about the presence of eyes. Sensing his distress, I hurriedly moved toward the hallway, preparing to investigate the matter further. Astonishingly, in the very moment I shifted my gaze in the direction he had indicated, he gasped in shock and exclaimed, "Gone!" It was as if the mysterious eyes had vanished into thin air, leaving no trace of their existence. Curiosity and concern mingled within me, urging me to seek answers. Unfortunately, my son's limited vocabulary and developing language skills made it a challenge for him to articulate his experiences. All my attempts to extract specific details about the eyes proved futile. All I could gather from his fragmented explanations was that the eyes were undeniably there, and they held a sense of deep-rooted fear within him. Days passed, and life continued its usual rhythm. However, fate had another eerie encounter in store for me. We were babysitting a friend's daughter, a 12-year-old skeptic who remained oblivious to the events surrounding my son's unsettling experiences. Engaged in innocent play within my son's room, she suddenly emerged, her eyes wide with disbelief. She recounted a strikingly similar tale to the one I had encountered only a couple of nights prior. This time I resolved to delve deeper into the matter. Summoning all of my parental intuition, I requested my son to indicate the precise location of the eyes he had repeatedly encountered. Pointing with conviction, he guided his finger to the exact same spot as before. Positioned behind him, he remained unaware of my presence. It was this very moment that my eyes, following the trajectory of his tiny finger, fixed upon the designated area. Astonishingly, my son gasped once more, whispering the word, "God." With a mixture of astonishment and trepidation, the eyes, it seemed, had vanished once again, leaving us perplexed and unnerved. Despite my persistent inquiries, my son's limited verbal capabilities hindered any comprehensive explanation. Yet the conviction in his voice and the sheer authenticity of his fear left an indelible mark on my parental instincts. I couldn't ignore the possibility that something genuinely unsettling was occurring within the confines of his room. The enigma surrounding these mysterious eyes persists, shrouded in a cloud of uncertainty. As a concerned parent, I continue to grapple with this unsettling phenomenon, desperately seeking answers that elude me. Until the day my son can effectively communicate the nature of his fear, I remain on high alert, ever vigilant for any signs of those chilling eyes that seem to appear and vanish at will. Story number 8. God mad at me? Years ago, during a fondly remembered evening filled with karaoke, my mom and I found ourselves immersed in a joyous melody and harmonies that echoed throughout the room. We were relishing the music, belting out our favorite tunes with exuberance and laughter. However, there was a fleeting moment, one that still lingers in my memory, when the impulsive and foolish nature of my teenage self took hold of me. Without any logical explanation, I spontaneously grabbed the microphone and shouted with unwarranted defiance, "I hate God!" The words slipped past my lips before I could even comprehend their weight. The room fell silent as my audacious outburst reverberated through the air, leaving a tangible tension in its wake. I watched as my mom's eyes widened in disbelief, her head shaking slowly from side to side, silently reprimanding me for my senseless act. The consequences of my impious proclamation soon manifested themselves in a way I could never have anticipated. As I stepped into the comforting cascade of warm water during my post-karaoke shower, an unexpected and inexplicable force descended upon me. It was as though an invisible entity had targeted my chest with an unfathomable power, delivering a blow that momentarily stole my breath away. The sheer impact was so profound that I recoiled, my body overwhelmed by an overwhelming sense of sickness and discomfort. I could feel my stomach churn and twist, as if caught in the clutches of a restless storm. With an urgency I'd never experienced before, I frantically stumbled out of the shower, my wet feet slipping and sliding on the tiled floor. I barely had time to towel myself dry before uncontrollable waves of nausea erupted within me. And I vomited right then and there, the remnants of the karaoke night now reduced to a pitiful mess. The once cleansing water had become a temporary refuge, abandoned midstream as my body rejected every morsel of sustenance I had consumed. The sickness gripped me with an unrelenting tenacity, refusing to grant me even a moment's respite. It was as if I had been struck down by a merciless stomach flu, cursed to suffer its wrath for an eternity. The following day became a relentless barrage of heaving and retching, each episode seemingly more forceful than the last. My body trembled under the strain, my throat raw from the repeated convulsions. Throughout this grueling ordeal, I found myself contemplating the inexplicable correlation between my ill-advised declaration and this harrowing physical torment? Was it mere coincidence, a cruel twist of fate, or something more profound? Had my thoughtless words triggered a chain reaction in the intricate fabric of the universe, leading to this vicious retribution? Questions swirled in my mind as I lay huddled in my bed, my body depleted, my spirit subdued. Days turned into nights, nights into days, each passing moment blending into a hazy blur of suffering. I became a prisoner in my own body, yearning for the affliction to release its grip on me. My mom, witnessing the agony I endured, remained a steadfast presence by my side, her concern etched across her face. She offered soothing words of solace and brought me remedies to alleviate my distress, but nothing seemed to abate the relentless assault of my fragile constitution. Finally, as suddenly as it had begun, the torment began to wane. The bouts of nausea became less frequent, the violent upheaval within me gradually subsiding. With cautious optimism, I dared to believe that perhaps the storm was passing, that I would emerge from this tribulation stronger and wiser. In the aftermath of this bewildering ordeal, I found solace in self-reflection. I recognized the consequences of my careless words and the importance of mindfulness in my actions. This humbling experience taught me the profound impact of our words, the ripple effect they can create in the intricate tapestry of existence. It reminded me to approach life with greater consideration, to understand that our thoughts and declarations hold immense power, capable of shaping our reality in ways we could never comprehend. Years have passed since, but the memory of that fateful karaoke night remains etched in my consciousness. It serves as a constant reminder of the intricate dance between our choices and the consequences that they yield. I carry with me the lessons learned from that turbulent chapter, forever grateful for the enlightenment born out of my teenage recklessness. And as I navigate the intricate journey of life, I strive to ensure that my words and actions reflect the understanding that sprouted from the crucible of that unforgettable experience. Story number 9. Late Night Driving. My partner and I found ourselves embarking on a journey back home after attending my brother's glorious graduation ceremony. The event had filled us with proud cheers, heartfelt speeches, and the joyous clinking of celebratory glasses. As we set off on our homeward drive, the night sky spread its velvety curtain over the world, casting an enchanting darkness upon the road ahead. The desolate highway stretched out before us, seemingly untouched by the passing of time. It was as if we were the sole inhabitants of this vast expanse, with only a handful of scattered vehicles breaking the solitude. The occasional car would whiz past us, their taillights flickering like distant fireflies, briefly illuminating the otherwise desolate surroundings. However, amidst this serene isolation, a peculiar sight caught our attention. On the side of the road, a lone figure stood, motionless and still. His presence seemed almost surreal, his arms hanging limply by his sides. There was an eerie air about him, something unsettling that sent shivers cascading down my spine. His gaze was fixed upon us, unyielding and piercing, as if he was watching our every move with an intensity that bordered on the malevolent. As our car approached this enigmatic figure, I couldn't help but wonder what had brought him to this desolate place. There were no vehicles nearby that could suggest that he had driven here, leaving us to ponder how he had arrived at this forsaken stretch of road. The barren landscape stretched out for miles, devoid of any signs of civilization, with no cities or towns to seek refuge in for quite some time. A foreboding feeling began to settle within me, a sense of unease that was impossible to ignore. I glanced at my partner, hoping to find reassurance in his eyes, to confirm that I wasn't the only one feeling the weight of this strange encounter. His face mirrored my concern, his brows furrowed and a faint frown creasing his forehead. It was clear that he too was captivated by the inexplicable nature of this encounter. As we drove past the enigmatic stranger, my eyes remained fixed on him, the image of his haunting presence etching itself deep within my memory. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, and there was more to this encounter than met the eye. The silence inside the car was suffocating, each passing second only intensifying the questions swirling within our minds. A whirlwind of thoughts raced through my head as we continued down the desolate road, the headlights of our car piercing through the inky darkness. Who was that man? What was he doing standing there, seemingly unbothered by our presence? Was he a harbinger of impending danger, or merely a solitary wanderer lost in the depths of the night? The minutes turned into hours as we traversed the winding road, each mile bringing us farther away from the mysterious figure. The memory of this ominous silhouette haunts me, its ghostly presence lingering in the recesses of my mind. I wondered if he would ever uncover the truth behind the chance encounter, or if it would forever remain an enigma, forever etched in the annals of our shared experiences. It was a night that left an indelible mark on both of us, a moment suspended in time where reality and the supernatural danced on the edge of perception. The road stretched endlessly before us, and as the car hummed with the steady rhythm of the engine, we couldn't help but reflect on the fragility of our existence, the thin veil that separates the known from the unknown. Ultimately, it was an experience that reminded us of the vastness and unpredictability of the world around us. It taught us that even in the most mundane of situations, the extraordinary can unveil itself, challenging our preconceived notions and shaking the very foundation of our beliefs. As we finally reached the comforting lights of our home, the memory of that peculiar encounter refused to fade. It served as a constant reminder that the world is a tapestry of mysteries waiting to be unraveled, and that sometimes the most profound moments occur when we least expect them, in the darkest corners of our journey. Story number 10. Animals dying in our driveway. Living in our serene neighborhood in Oklahoma has always brought us with a sense of tranquility, but lately an inexplicable and rather unsettling phenomenon has been plaguing our peaceful existence. It all began innocuously enough with the discovery of a lifeless, desiccated frog on our driveway. Its shriveled form, devoid of vitality, struck us with a mixture of curiosity and mild unease. Little did we know that this was merely the prelude to a series of perplexing incidents that would send shivers down our spines. As days turned into weeks, another macabre addition appeared in the same location, a bird, its once vibrant feathers now dulled and lifeless. The unusual nature of these discoveries was hard to ignore, as the animals seemed to materialize overnight, their remains transforming into eerie reminders of death's grip. But what sent chills down our spines was the realization that these peculiar occurrences were confined solely to our property. None of our neighbors had experienced such disconcerting phenomena, deepening the mystery surrounding our predicament. The unsettling nature of these events reached its peak when just yesterday we made an unsettling discovery. There, on the very spot that had become a haunting stage for these grim manifestations, lay not one, but two small snakes, their bodies twisted and contorted, their vitality mercilessly drained. The sun's harsh rays beat down on their lifeless forms, rendering them even more desiccated and withered than their predecessors. It was as if an unseen force had systematically targeted our driveway, leaving behind a chilling tableau of death. Naturally, we were gripped by an overwhelming sense of confusion and trepidation. What force or entity could be orchestrating these grisly displays? Was it a manifestation of some dark supernatural power, or a series of coincidences that conspired to disturb our peace? We turned to our neighbors, sharing our concerns and searching for any semblance of clarity amidst the enigma that surrounded us. Alas, their bewildered faces mirrored our own, offering no answers, only a shared sense of disquietude. Driven by our insatiable thirst for answers, we embarked on a quest to unravel the mysteries that enveloped our once idyllic surroundings. Countless hours were spent poring over books, scouring the depths of the internet, and engaging in countless conversations with experts in fields ranging from biology to folklore. Yet the elusive truth remained elusive, teasing us with its hidden nature like a ghostly specter lingering just beyond our grasp. Speculations and theories danced through our minds, each as varied and non-conclusive as the next. Was it an omen, a forewarning of some impending calamity, or perhaps a vengeful spirit trapped between worlds and seeking to communicate with the living through these macabre displays? We delved into the annals of local legends and folklore, searching for any tale that might hold a glimmer of truth. Yet every thread we pulled led to a dead end, leaving us ensnared in a web of uncertainty. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months as our tireless pursuit of truth seemed to yield no respite. With every passing discovery, the weight of the unknown bore down upon us, threatening to extinguish the flickering flame of hope that still burned within our hearts. We clung to the hope that one day the puzzle pieces would align and the truth would emerge from the shadows that held it captive. And so, dear listener, here I stand recounting our harrowing tale as the haunting mystery of the dried and withered creatures on our driveway continues to confound us. The journey has been arduous, the answers elusive, but our determination remains unyielding. We beseech the universe and anyone who might stumble upon our story to shed light on the enigma that engulfs our once tranquil existence. For it is through collective knowledge and shared experiences that we may yet unearth the truth behind this unsettling phenomenon and bring an end to the spectral reign that has cast a shadow over our lives. Story number 11. Possible leprechaun sighting. Around 7 years ago, during my stay at my dad's house, an incident occurred that continues to send shivers down my spine whenever I recall it. In the middle of the night, I found myself abruptly awakened by a sight that, although seemingly absurd, I now believe was a leprechaun. Growing up in my dad's house, it had always felt like a place of comfort, devoid of any eerie vibes or history of paranormal occurrences. It was just as an ordinary house, a sanctuary for my childhood memories. That particular night, I was sound asleep in my bedroom, facing the left side of my room as slumber embraced me. However, as fate would have it, I was destined to be jolted awake by an inexplicable phenomenon. I found myself peering into the darkness, my vision yet to adjust to the dimly lit room, and there, roughly 1.5 meters in front of me, stood a small figure, a man, or what I presumed to be a man, standing no more than 3 feet tall. The silhouette was discernible, but the lack of facial features made it impossible to truly comprehend what I was witnessing. This wasn't a mere shadowy specter, it possessed a palpable corporeality. As if an actual person had materialized within the confines of my room. A top hat adorned his head, adding to the surrealism of the scene. But it was the dancing that struck me with both fascination and dread. Describing it proves challenging, for the movements defied conventional description. Hunched over, the figure performed a peculiar and exaggerated tiptoeing motion, akin to a macabre ballet. I remained transfixed, watching this enigmatic performance unfold. The seconds ticked by, stretching into an eternity as I grappled with the incomprehensible reality of this situation. How could this be real? As if sensing my growing bewilderment, the dancing abruptly ceased. The figure turned toward me, locked its gaze upon me, and with an unsettling agility, began hurtling toward me at alarming speed. Terror gripped my soul and a scream escaped my lips as I instinctively flung myself to the other side of the bed, fumbling for the light switch. The room bathed in illumination, I cast a frantic glance toward the spot where the apparition had danced mere moments ago. To my utter disbelief, it had vanished without a trace. Needless to say, that night, sleep evaded me until the sun's gentle rays chased away the darkness and my father emerged from his own slumber. For years, I tried to rationalize the encounter, dismissing it as nothing more than a bizarre encounter with a diminutive hat-wearing intruder. It wasn't until I mustered the courage to confide in my boyfriend about the incident years later that the truth dawned upon me. He suggested what I had witnessed bore striking resemblance to a leprechaun, and in that instant a peculiar realization washed over me. Now, when it comes to finding a rational explanation for what transpired, one might argue that it could be just me waking hallucinations, or lingering traces from a vivid dream. Yet throughout my life I've experienced several instances of awakening in the night only to find myself beholding spectral apparitions. This particular encounter, along with another that felt equally distinct from the others, stands out in my memory. It wasn't a fleeting glimpse or a mere flicker. It had been afforded ample time to observe and absorb every unsettling detail. By the time it lunged towards me, I was fully awake, my senses sharp and attuned to the chilling reality that was unfolding. I struggled to dismiss it as a mere hallucination, for it defied logical explanation and left an indelible mark on me in the process. Whenever the memory resurfaces, my heart quickens its pace, and an eerie chill creeps down my spine. So I pose the question to you, was it just another figment of my imagination? Another hallucination? Or was there something more otherworldly at play that fateful night? Story number 12, Childhood Encounter. When I was 4 years old, I, along with my mom and 3 brothers, moved into a house located in Oak Cliff, Texas. The house was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom abode, which was a fairly new build. It had my own room, which was decked out in a cute girly theme, and I had my own twin bed, which was layered down a long hallway and near bathroom. My twin brothers, who were 8 years old at the time, shared a room too. The house was a rented 3-bedroom house located in a quiet and serene neighborhood. After we moved in, my mom's brothers, who were 3 brothers as well, moved into a house located in a nearby neighborhood. They were a friendly bunch, always coming over to our house and spending time with us. There was a great bond between all of us, and several times in a week we would gather in a room together, while my younger brothers, who were twins at the time, slept with each other in another room. My twin brothers were very different from me. They were more active and slept in a room together. I had sweet paradise in my own room, which was my own personal haven where I could retreat and spend hours lost in imagination. It was a place where all my dreams and fantasies could come to life, and I could be anyone I wanted to be. My bed was my little castle, and my toys were my loyal subjects. I could spend hours creating stories and playing out different scenarios. As the years went by, I started to realize that my room was more than just a place of sleep and play. It became my sanctuary, my escape from the outside world. Whenever I was feeling sad or overwhelmed, I would retreat to my room and find solace in the familiar surroundings. It was a safe space where I could be myself without any judgment or expectations. Looking back, I can vividly remember those nights when I would lie in my bed, gazing up at the glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling. I would imagine myself floating among them, exploring the vast expanse of the universe. It was during those moments that I felt a deep sense of peace and wonder. My room was my launch pad to infinite possibilities. My brothers, on the other hand, were always causing a ruckus. They would wrestle and play rough, sometimes knocking over furniture or breaking things. My mom would scold them and tell them to calm down, but they were just being typical boys, full of energy and mischief. Despite their antics, I loved having them around. We would have secret meetings and plan adventures together. Our imaginations knew no bounds, and we would create entire worlds within the confines of our little house. In the evenings, as the sun set and the darkness blanketed the neighborhood, our house would come alive with laughter and chatter. My uncles would join us, and we would all gather in the living room sharing stories and jokes. It was a warm and cozy atmosphere filled with love and joy. Those moments spent with my family are etched in my memory, and I cherish them dearly. Sometimes we would have sleepovers in the living room, where we would all snuggle up with blankets and pillows. We would tell ghost, is what the text says here. And that is the end of the text. Moving on to the next story. Story number 13. I'm scared I think I might be going insane. I find myself plagued by a persistent, unsettling presence that I can only describe as a ghostly entity. It's an inexplicable phenomenon that's filled me with a profound sense of fear and apprehension. The knowledge that I'm being haunted by an unknown force is enough to send shivers down my spine, for I'm constantly on edge, unsure of what might happen next. What makes this haunting particularly terrifying is the entity's uncanny ability to exploit my deepest fears. It preys upon my vulnerabilities, using them against me in the most sinister of ways. The mere thought of its malevolent intentions sends chills down my spine, and I despise the way that it revels in my discomfort. The intensity of the situation reached its peak recently when I experienced a severe panic attack triggered by one of the ghost's haunting episodes. The sheer terror and paralyzing fear that gripped me in that moment were unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. It was as if the boundaries between reality and the supernatural had blurred, and I found myself trapped in a nightmarish realm of my own creation. In a desperate attempt to rid myself of this unrelenting torment, I composed a heartfelt letter, pleading with the ghost to leave me be. I poured my emotions onto the paper, desperately hoping that my words would reach some form of understanding. However, deep down, I'm aware that my plea may fall on deaf ears. What if the ghost responds with hostility, or even worse, escalates it into haunting with even more terrifying levels? The uncertainty gnaws at my sanity, leaving me paralyzed with fear. One additional source of anxiety stems from the contemplation of confiding in my family about the ghostly encounters that have plagued me. Will they dismiss my claims as the ravings of a troubled mind? Will they perceive me as a mere vessel of delusion, subject to my own imaginative terrors? The prospect of being ridiculed or deemed mentally unstable fills me with trepidation, for I fear that they might not comprehend the gravity of my predicament. The internal struggle continues to torment me, and I find myself grappling with an overwhelming sense of sadness and nervousness. The nights stretch on endlessly as sleep eludes me, haunted not only by the ghostly presence, but also by the debilitating questions that plague my mind. Am I truly losing my grip on reality, or is there a genuine supernatural force tormenting me? Is this a manifestation of some deeper underlying issue within my own psyche? The sheer weight of the uncertainty bears down upon me, and I'm left in a state of profound confusion. I feel trapped within a labyrinth of fear and despair, unable to navigate my way to safety. Each passing moment only serves to deepen my sense of unease, further eroding my fragile resolve. In this state of perpetual distress, I'm left with no clear course of action. The ghostly presence continues to cast its ominous shadow over my life, and I am at a loss as how I might reclaim my sense of peace. All I can do is endure, hope for respite, and seek solace in the shared experiences of others who have faced similar trials. For now, I'm left to grapple with the haunting uncertainty that has become an unwelcome companion. The ghost lingers, a constant reminder of the darkness that surrounds me. I remain ever vigilant, desperately seeking a glimmer of hope amidst the encroaching darkness that threatens to consume me whole. Story number 14. Mom visited me for the second time since she passed 2 years ago. As the night before Mother's Day approached, I found myself caught in the clutches of my own personal torment. Plagued by post-traumatic stress disorder, my mind was a battlefield, constantly besieged by vivid and repetitive survival scenarios, all veering towards apocalyptic themes. In these dreams, I was perpetually running for my life, desperately trying to evade the clutches of impending doom. Yet to add an additional layer of agony, the person accompanying me in these nightmarish episodes was always someone I held dear, only to betray me in the end, becoming the catalyst for a collective downfall. It seemed as though my subconscious harbored an inherent desire to torment me, denying me any respite from the relentless narrative of struggle and chaos. My dreams were devoid of joy, void of any deviation from the familiar script of my frantic escape. Whether it was navigating through a world ravaged by zombie hordes, seeking refuge in isolated countryside dwellings, or finding myself trapped within the confines of a sinister jail cell, my dreams remained steadfast in their adherence to this recurring theme. There was even a recurring image of a sprawling train track, stretching out into the distance, leading me towards an enigmatic launch pad destined for the vast expanse of outer space. My mind seemed limited by its ability to conjure alternative dreamscapes, locking me into this perpetual cycle of terror. However, it was on the eve of Mother's Day that my dreams took an unexpected turn, ensnaring me once again in the throes of a nightmare where I was falsely accused of a murder I did not commit. My world was abruptly transformed. Suddenly, amidst the chaos of the dream, my mother materialized before me, shattering the illusion of peril and substituting it with a profound sense of astonishment. I stood frozen, unable to fathom how she could be present in this realm, for she had long since departed from the earthly plane. The dream's ominous theme dissipated, leaving only my mother and I enveloped in a sacred cocoon of otherworldly connection. Unable to contain my astonishment, I blurted out, "How are you here? You're dead." My words hung in the air, pregnant with a mix of disbelief and wonder, yet my mother's response shattered any lingering doubts and instilled an indescribable sense of solace within me. "I'm not dead," she gently muttered. Her voice carried a resonance that resonated with the deepest recesses of my being. "I'm with you every single day." The weight of her words reverberated through my soul yet again, permeating the very fabric of my consciousness. Regrettably, at that pivotal moment of connection, I was rudely awakened from my slumber. My eyes fluttered open and I found myself engulfed in a surge of frustration and anger. The ephemeral encounter with my mother had been abruptly cut short, leaving me yearning for more precious moments of conversation. The intensity of the experience lingered, its echoes resounding within the chambers of my heart. In that ephemeral interlude, the boundaries between reality and dreams had blurred, leaving me with an overwhelming sense of awe and certainty. Never before had I been so convinced that my mother in some mystical way would be visiting me in the realm of dreams, bridging the chasm that separated us. Even now, as I reflect upon the surreal encounter, I remain awestruck. The raw authenticity of the dream had shattered the constraints of logic and reason, leaving me with an unshakable conviction that something truly extraordinary had transpired. The emotional impact eclipsed that of any previous dream, leaving an indelible imprint upon my consciousness. In that fleeting moment, the veil between life and death had been momentarily lifted, allowing me to commune with a loved one that transcended all boundaries. And so as Mother's Day dawned upon the world, I carried with me a newfound understanding, a deeper connection to the essence of maternal love. The boundaries of space and time may confine us, but the realm of dreams knows no such restrictions. In those ethereal landscapes, I find solace in the belief that my mother's spirit intertwines with mine, guiding me through the labyrinth of my dreams and whispering words of love and comfort. It is a sacred bond, woven with ethereal threads, and I cherished it with every fiber of my being. Story number 15. Sliders and Long Distances. Ever since I can remember, a peculiar phenomenon has plagued my existence. The streetlights have a knack for going off whenever I pass beneath them. It's a bizarre occurrence that's never failed to astound and perplex me. No matter the time of day or location, the moment I approach a streetlight, it flickers and dies, casting an eerie darkness around me. I've grown accustomed to the bewildering glances and whispers that follow, as the very fabric of reality conspires against me. But it doesn't end there. My peculiar aura seems to extend beyond mere streetlights. Computers crash inexplicably in my presence, their screens frozen in a state of digital despair. The electric currents in my house I grew up in were particularly fickle, often plunging us into darkness for no discernible reason. Batteries and light bulbs meet their untimely demise at an alarming rate, drained of their life force as soon as they come into contact with me. It's become part of my existence, the strange, unnerving phenomenon that seems to define my very being. Yet, as the years have unfolded, the nature of these occurrences has taken on an even stranger turn. It's as if the universe has devised a way to amplify its peculiar sense of humor. No longer confined to immediate proximity, the effects now extend across vast distances. I have observed this phenomenon unfold when I find myself in direct connection with another individual, be it through a phone call, an internet conversation, or even in person. In the digital realm, my presence manifests as chaos. The steady flow of data falters connections, falters the server, as if the virtual infrastructure itself quivers under the weight of my peculiar electromagnetic aura. Online chats become fraught with uncertainty, with messages vanishing into digital abyss, leaving behind a trail of confusion and frustration. It's as if the technology recoils in fear of the unforeseen consequences of my mere presence and what it might unleash. But it doesn't stop there. Even in face-to-face encounters, my strange power takes hold. The lights in the room dim inexplicably, as if cowering beneath an unseen force. Conversations falter and stutter, as if the words themselves struggle to escape the grasp of this invisible interloper. The expressions of those around me shift, ranging from curiosity to a mixture of awe and fear as they witness the extraordinary unfolding before their eyes. It's as if the universe itself has deemed me a conduit of chaos, an unwitting harbinger of disruption. The connections I form with others, be they intimate or remote, become intertwined with the inexplicable forces that govern my existence. There are times when I yearn for normalcy, to be free from the weight of this strange power that shapes my life, but alas, it remains an inseparable part of who I am. So I continue to navigate this extraordinary existence, ever vigilant and curious about the possibilities that lie within the realms of the unknown. Perhaps in time I will unravel the secrets behind this phenomenon, find solace in the understanding of the inexplicable. Until then, I am destined to be the conduit of chaos, forever connected to those who bear witness to the wonders and mysteries that reside within me, much like the narrator. Story number 16. Sun at Night? Last summer, I found myself reminiscing about a peculiar event that occurred during an unforgettable night when my close friend, who I'll refer to as Sammy, and I were strolling back to my humble abode, eagerly anticipating an exhilarating sleepover. As we sauntered along, tiredness weighed heavy upon our eyelids. An inexplicable occurrence captured our attention and held us spellbound beneath the darkened heavens. Gazing upwards, we were greeted by a sight that left us astounded. The firmament above us seemed to have absorbed every hint of light, rendering it an inky abyss. Yet amidst this vast obsidian canvas, the moon shone resplendently, its luminosity painting the surrounding landscape with an ethereal glow. It was a typical full moon, devoid of any ominous aura or supernatural portents. The time, according to our weary senses, was precisely 9:30 p.m., and the celestial body hovered majestically, casting its gentle radiance upon the earth. However, our attention was swiftly diverted from the moon's captivating allure to an enigmatic phenomenon that materialized within the vast expanse above. Nestled in the midst of the inky abyss, directly in the center of the sky, an enigmatic red orb of light materialized before our bewildered eyes. Its size was comparable to that of a diminutive golf ball, and though its brilliance was undeniable, it failed to cast even a faint glimmer upon the starless night. The peculiarity of the situation struck us deeply, prompting a surge of curiosity within our hearts. We embarked upon a quest for answers, pondering the possible origin and purpose of this celestial anomaly. Considering the time of night, we swiftly dismissed any associations with a lunar or solar eclipse, and an ordinary plane's presence was highly improbable, as the light emitted by the orb remained motionless, steadfast in its position. Nevertheless, perplexed but undeterred, we resolved to continue our journey home, albeit with a lingering sense of wonder. Arriving at my humble abode, it took no more than a handful of minutes for us to carry out the necessary tasks before stepping outside once more. The primal instincts of love and responsibility beckoned us to attend my canine companions, and thus we promptly let our beloved pets venture into the night. However, as we stepped back into the realm of nocturnal mysteries, the red orb that had captivated our attention just moments before had inexplicably vanished. Its sudden disappearance bewildered us further, igniting a cascade of questions within our enigmatic minds. What had we witnessed? Had we stumbled upon a celestial phenomenon yet to be explained by science? Or perhaps an ethereal entity, teasing us with its elusive nature? Our rationality struggled to provide satisfactory answers, leaving us suspended within a realm of uncertainty and speculation. Story number 17. My Experiences. My first paranormal encounter occurred when I was just 13 years old, spending time at my grandparents' house on my dad's side of the family. It was a sunny day and I was diligently mowing the grass in their backyard. As I glanced toward my grandpa's large shed, I noticed something unusual. He had recently installed a massive window facing the house, measuring around 3 feet wide and 7 feet tall. And there, from the floor up at the top of the window, stood a tall, slender figure of a woman. She was entirely white and had the darkest eyes I've ever seen. It wasn't just her eyeballs. Her entire eye area was pitch black. Startled, I stopped mowing, and for a brief 3 to 5 seconds we locked eyes. Then, in the blink of an eye, she vanished. Strangely enough, I didn't feel any negative energy from her encounter. My second supernatural experience took place when I was 15 years old. By that time, I had chosen a futon over a regular mattress, and it was situated about 1 and 1.5 feet above the ground, complete with handrails. One evening, after turning off all the lights and settling into bed, I heard a peculiar sound coming from my room. It was as if something was flickering random objects from one end of the room to the other. I had an old 24-inch box-style TV at the time, and the last flick I heard sounded like it hit the screen dead center. Anyone familiar with these TVs know the distinctive sound that occurs when something strikes the glass. As soon as I heard that flick, my dark room lit up with static from the TV. Whatever it was had turned the TV on with a mere flick. Feeling a sense of unease, I uncovered myself, turned off the TV, and went back to sleep. A couple of weeks later, another incident unfolded. I woke up to an inexplicable light in my room. Now, it's important to note that I slept in a room devoid of any light, using a thick plastic sheet to cover my window and block out all external illumination. Naturally, I was alarmed by the presence of this light. I lifted the covers to investigate and discovered a child standing there. I say child because the dimensions of my futon and this entity resembled the old woman I had seen previously. She, too, was entirely white with pitch black eyes, and she stood about a foot taller than the handrail at the end of my bed, near my feet. We locked eyes for what felt like an entire minute, and then slowly she faded away, leaving my room in darkness once again. Surprisingly, I didn't feel any negative vibes from this encounter either. As a spiritually inclined person, my grandma on my dad's side has always been in touch with the supernatural. She had sage and other spiritual items hanging on her walls. I decided to confide in her about my experiences, unsure if she would dismiss them or offer some guidance. To my surprise, she didn't try to downplay my encounters. Instead, she advised me that white spirits are usually benevolent, but it's best to avoid them nonetheless. She emphasized that I shouldn't be scared, as these entities were harmless. My grandma and grandpa had since split up, and she was living on her own at the time. The fourth encounter occurred when I was 16 years old, and spending the night at my grandma's house. It was late in the evening, between 10 and 12 o'clock. Both my grandma and I had gone to bed, but I suddenly woke up to the sound of snorting coming from the end of the hall. Realizing I needed to use the restroom, I started walking down the hallway. As I passed the spare room, I noticed the same woman from my first experience sitting at the end of the bed. Her head was turned and her gaze was fixed on me. The room was eerily illuminated, as if someone had turned on all the lights. Caught off guard and not expecting to be observed, I panicked and ran about 5 feet down the hall. Then I backpedaled to take another look, only to find that she had vanished. I didn't mention this encounter to my grandma, as I believed this spirit was watching over or protecting her. Just like before, I didn't feel any malevolence emanating from this apparition. My fear stemmed from the unexpectedness of the situation, but both encounters with this woman had left me with a sense of calm. Over the years, I had other experiences involving random noises and even hearing my name being called out. By the time I reached the age of 27, I was married with children and working night shifts. My family would typically go to sleep around 9:30 to 10 p.m. During one particular night when I was doing laundry between 1 and 2 a.m., I was startled by an incredibly loud scratching and banging on the door to the laundry room. Curious and slightly unnerved, I got up to investigate, but I couldn't find anything amiss. To be safe, I left the door open just in case. I returned to the couch and sat down, but moments later the door slammed shut and the banging resumed. This time I was certain I was the only one hearing it. My wife had never experienced anything paranormal in the house. Without hesitation, I checked how much time was left on the dryer, set an alarm, and promptly left the house. I admit, I may have appeared like a coward, but my wife and I joke about it now. Eventually, my wife and I decided to buy a house and added a furry companion to our family, a dog. I became accustomed to hearing strange noises and would often look to the dog to see if she reacted as well. Sometimes she would show no interest, but most of the time she would become completely alert, ears perked up, hair standing on end, and focusing her attention on the source of the noise. Our spare room in particular gave off an unsettling vibe that affected everyone in the family. Even guests who stayed in that room reported feeling uneasy and eventually relocated to the couch in the middle of the night. When I was home alone, I would occasionally hear noises, but on a few occasions I distinctly heard the laughter of what seemed like a 5-year-old girl coming from our kitchen. Strangely enough, our dog acknowledged this as well. The overall energy surrounding these occurrences was undeniably negative. That's when I decided to come up with a solution to the unsettling situation in our house. During a family gathering, perhaps around Easter, I returned to my old room at my mom's house and shut the door. Speaking aloud, I addressed the ghost child I'd encountered in my youth. "Hey, ghost kid," I said. "If you're still here, I could use your help at my house. You've never made me feel threatened, but my current house does. And if you're still around, could you come with me and do your best?" This heartfelt plea occurred 2 years ago. Since then, I've occasionally felt like I caught a glimpse of the ghost of the child from my youth in the corner of my eye. However, all the strange noises, laughter, and negative energy have ceased. Today, we continue to live in the house we purchased, and our dog remains a vigilant observer of the supernatural. While I still hear noises when I'm home alone, they no longer fill me with dread, It seems that my plea to the ghost child brought about a positive change, making her home a more peaceful place. I'm grateful for this resolution, as it's brought a sense of tranquility to our lives and allowed us to enjoy her home without a constant unease.